Welcome back to the Life Well Led podcast, everybody. Today, Karen, let's talk about time management.
Yes, please. Oh my gosh, this is probably the number one most coached on topic, no matter what you're coaching on.
Doesn't matter. Life, leadership, executives, wellness, transitions, name your niche. Time management comes up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I think almost every single one of the clients that I've worked with, time management has come up in some sort of way. And as coaches, we are always driven to try to find the block for the client. So, what is actually causing this thought of, I don't have enough time? And Eric, what would you say would be the number one cause of, I don't have enough time?
Scarcity. Scarcity mindset. That is talking about the idea that I don't have enough time. Time is against me. It's the idea that while time is a scarce resource, you believe so much so that you don't have control over it or you don't have acceptance of it, that you are always against time or you just don't have a grasp on time.
You will never find time for anything. If you want time, you must make it.
Absolutely. There's no choice or qualms about it. And part of that is prioritization too, right? I mean, it's tough to do when you feel like, okay, this is my most important task. And then this fire comes out. It's like, oh, this is my most important task. Just keep that going ad nauseum. And you realize that you didn't make time for things that you wish you did, whether it be the gym or your family or professional development, right? Any of and all of those things. That's what comes down to the scarcity mindset. You feel like you don't have enough time or time is against you.
So I guess throughout this episode, what we're going to focus on is exploring the strategies that can shift you out of this thought of, I don't have enough time, and reclaim your control over your day. So, Eric, let's dive into specifically the scarcity mindset and the effects of its productivity.
Got it.
Where should we begin?
Well, what starts the scarcity mindset to me is usually it's experience. Sometimes it's how we were raised. I mean, how it's rooted really almost doesn't matter. Sometimes it does just for clarity purposes, and so it's worth exploring. But it comes down to how you approach time based on your ability to control it or not. And that's really the big question, right? Is, can you really control time? No, time passes regardless of whether you do something or not. So inaction is still action.
It's quite amazing that some people seem to be so productive. They seem to get so much done in their day. And we look at them and go, how are you able to get so much done? We all live in the same 24-hour day. Each and every one of us. But some people are just more productive than others. Why? Why is that? It comes down to this idea of how you spend your time, right? There are people who have mastered the art of time management and they are able to up-level their life and everything that happens within their 24-hour day because they have shifted this mindset into thinking that there is enough time and they prioritize the things that they need to throughout their day. So this really the effect of the scarcity mindset that I don't have enough time, that is the number one drainer of productivity.
Think about it. If you don't believe there's enough time, there won't be enough time. It sounds silly and it sounds like it's kind of, just really it's that obvious, but it kind of is at that point. If you don't believe that there's enough time, how would you possibly execute on the time that you do have? So, yeah, I mean, that's really where it starts with, is a mindset change, is scarcity mindset. Now, where do we go from there in terms of the scarcity mindset as far as how do you approach it?
Well, I guess then it comes down to strategy, right? Like, what other option do I have? Some of us are so ingrained to think that time is this precious commodity, and it is. It's probably the most precious commodity we have. But when you approach it from that scarcity mindset, that there really is this finite amount and that you're wasting it, and if you're coming from it from that perspective that I'm just so overwhelmed with all the other things in life, I can't stop and enjoy and smell the flowers. I can't go on that vacation. I can't take a vacation at all because my work is drowning me. I'll never be able to pick up a hobby because I don't have enough time. I'm too busy chasing my kids or taking care of my family, cooking dinner, doing all the things that I have to do. You don't make the time to go to the gym. You don't make the time to do the things that are going to give you joy and bring you joy in your life. So, first step is prioritizing. So, what
Yes.
is it that you have had on your New Year's resolution list year after year after year after year that you want to finally say, enough is enough? It's time that I prioritize this in my life. What is that thing? First step is identifying it.
Yep, absolutely. And part of that is understanding when you do prioritize, whether it's your New Year's Day list, New Year's Eve resolutions, New Year's resolutions, and then also, what are you prioritizing otherwise? Like, are you prioritizing other people's priorities? Are you prioritizing your job's priorities? Are you prioritizing, do you want to prioritize yourself more, your family more? Those are the two things that we tend to not prioritize enough that we feel, right? So that's something to really consider is where do you want your priorities to be at the end of the day?
It's pretty eye-opening if you're just diving into this and you want to take control of your schedule. A really helpful activity to try is to sit down and look at your calendar and look at how you spent last week. Look at every single day. Think about it. I know it's hard to remember, what we ate for breakfast, let alone what we did last week, but really try to think
Yeah.
about how you spent your time. Were you death scrolling on Instagram?
Mm,
Maybe. Put it in. Be honest with yourself. Were you, did you take a lot of time doing XYZ? Did you change your clothes 100 times? Did you guilty, right? You get ready for work, should only take you 20 minutes to get out the door. Instead, you spent 60 minutes because you tried on 6 outfits. So what is it? How are you spending your time?
hmm
Be honest with yourself. And then figure out and identify the things that you really want to do, right? So you start to bring that into your life and figure out how to make the time to prioritize those things.
Yeah, and to your point, when you think about the things that you might be wasting time on, some of it might not be as inefficient as you think because you in the moment assume that you have to do it. Like, I don't have the right outfit, so I have to prioritize this right now. What about like emails? How many times do we go through our email list and say, I've got to get all of these emails done before I leave? Well, does every single email need you to respond to it? Do you need to be spending 3 hours in a row on emails when you have other tasks? That's what causes that anxiety, right? So think about those tasks. And then when you actually prioritize what you want to do, then you start to say, okay, what isn't immediately done right now? And how much am I pushing this off? And how much more do I have? How much time more do I have to push this off so that way it's no longer relevant or it just starts to feel like guilt or shame because you didn't do it for yourself?
Mm-hmm. The more clarity you can get around this prioritization. So let's say, for example, that you really want to prioritize a personal development class and you just can't find it in your work schedule, even though it's for work. Even though, let's say your organization is paying for it, you are just so busy with what you do in the day to day that you don't even have time to watch the 1 hour video,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a on demand training or a live training that you have to attend. It's so hard to carve out that time to actually attend that, even though you know that it'll make you a better person, it'll make you a better employee, it'll, boost your creativity and your productivity and could really give you some great insights. The values there, but you can't carve out the time, right? So, what are some ways to change your mindset on that?
Well, let me start and say that was me. In professional development, I had a great last company I worked for before working for myself, and they championed professional development so much so it was part of our key performance indicators.
Mm,
For me, it was really tough because it was a phone based job. You are always answering the phone all the time. So you always felt this urge to want to answer the phone. And when you were off, you just felt like you were guilty of doing something. So that led to a lot of guilt. So how do you change that is really changing your thought around what is the bigger priority here? Is every single phone call that priority? Knowing that if you are stuck in the current cycle you are, how well is what you're doing giving you what you want in terms of satisfaction?
yeah.
I think that's a big question. So what do you really want and how well is what you're doing working? If
Yeah.
you can get to that point and start to realize, wow, what I'm doing right now sucks. This is not very helpful. Then you start to ask, what could you do to change that?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean that change might be the time management piece, and then ultimately action and accountability on it is to, yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable for a little while.
Yeah. So the I don't have enough time in that situation shifts to I'm choosing to prioritize my personal development. I'm choosing to prioritize other things right now in this moment because of all the pros that you just listed,
Hmm.
right? Not the cons, the pros. This is the benefits outweigh the cost. I might not have enough time, but I'm going to make time to do it. And there's so much empowerment through the intentionality of our language choices. It's incredible
Hmm.
to go from I don't have enough time to I'm choosing to prioritize this because I know it's going to make me better. So, first is the mindset shift. This is important to me. I am going to prioritize it throughout my day. Then it comes to actually stepping into the practice of it. So, everybody does this differently.
Hmm.
Getting specific about what the task is, right? You don't just say professional development. You say, I'm going to sign up for this specific class on this Tuesday at noon.
Set it in your calendar,
Put it
right?
in your calendar.
Put it there.
I think it's so interesting. As I stepped into a higher executive level role, I realized that so many executives actually schedule things like working out, um, personal trainers, professional development. They have their schedules, these high level executives have their schedules so down packed and build in the things that they want in their life because they have learned over time to prioritize their time.
They've set boundaries around other people and themselves to give themselves that time. So you don't have to be an executive to do that. It starts with you. You do it for yourself. And if you get pushback or you think you might get pushback, be proactive and say, this is my time for X. If it's something like professional development, your company's, I mean, I would hope that your company would not have a problem with that, especially if they're encouraging you to do it. And the only thing getting in the way is yourself, then that is the time to say, hey, listen, every Tuesday at noon, this is my professional development time during the week. So can you please cover me on the phones? Can you please cover my shift? Can you please do this particular task of whatever I need to do to get done so that I can do that?
Don't schedule meetings. Going back to
Mm-hmm.
our episode on boundaries, this is exactly it. Set the boundaries and be firm with it. This is important to me. Working out at noon on Wednesdays is important to me. I'm going to go to that yoga class at 4. So I'm going to end my day early, but I'm going to start early. Like figuring out what that looks like and balancing it in your schedule and then being firm with those boundaries. But blocking off the time is really, for me, the skill that I have learned. If I want to incorporate something into my day, I have to put it on my calendar. I live and die by my Outlook
Yep.
calendar. But truly, I mean, we we do. We are creatures of habit. And if something's on my calendar and it says I'm going to go to yoga, not only does it hold me accountable, but it's on my calendar. I have to do it.
If you let people dictate your time, you will have no control. If you dictate your time, you will have more control over it than you think. Put those things in your calendar. You then have control. Having control of it is ultimate freedom. Scheduling and routine is ultimate freedom when you get to determine it.
Mm-hmm. The key is to not prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
That's right.
Oh, I love that quote. I love it. I think the most important part of this whole process, though, is something that is so easily skipped:
What's that?
celebrating the progress.
All progress, not just the big stuff. Celebrate along the way. When you celebrate the little things, it's not you being, self congratulatory or pompous or anything like that. Life is not easy sometimes, right? So celebrate those little things along the way. Celebrate the fact that you gave yourself time for the first time. Celebrate it for the fifth time, the 10th time, whatever milestones you want to give yourself. Celebrate those things because that's what's going to make the discipline part of it easier to go through.
Mm-hmm. Cultivating that positive mindset, recognizing when you're actually achieving the things that you want. It is the small milestones. You go to the gym, you go to yoga, you go to that personal development, you take a pottery class, you go to XYZ, you fill in the blank, whatever it is that you want to prioritize in your day, you do that for 20 minutes. Celebrate. You
Yep.
do it 3 days a week. Celebrate. Celebrate. Make it a habit of acknowledging that you have carved out time in your week for something that brings you joy, that's going to make you a better person. It is empowering to do that. And it's going to give you that mindset of encouragement to do it more often.
Think about it this way: you're gaining something new, but you're also losing something. So people don't fear change, they fear loss, is a quote that I've heard multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's true. You are losing something. You're losing out on potentially, that phone call that you could get in trouble for, or a new business deal, or a new sale, whatever it might be, but you're gaining something else in there. So why not recognize the gain rather than what our minds tend to do, which is try to acknowledge the loss and say, oh, this really sucks. Think about what's really good about it. Retrain your brain to celebrate what the positive things are.
Hmm. The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're in control of your time.
You can be the pilot of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And truly looking at your schedule, figuring out, how am I spending my time, being honest. What do you actually want to spend your time on? And then just doing it, shifting your mindset. Stop saying, I don't have enough time. It's not helping you. Figure out a better way to prioritize your time. And it starts in your mind. It starts here. It's not, I don't have enough time. It's, I'm choosing to prioritize X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
You are in control of your destiny.
Start with the mind, put it in action, celebrate the progress.